Hello and welcome back to History 379. My name is Jessica and let's dive right into it. Today we're going to be talking about Naomi Klein's documentary, This Changes Everything. I watched the film, I analyzed the film, and let me share with you what I learned. This Changes Everything is a documentary film released in 2015 and is based on a book by Naomi Klein. This film, like many other climate change documentaries, aims to inform the public about the disastrous effects our lifestyle is having on the environment. The documentary's thesis statement is that human society has been telling the wrong story about the environment for hundreds of years. That myth is that we have dominion over nature. It's apparent that profiting off of nature has winners and losers. And while some people profit off of the fossil fuel industry, our environment and the people who depend on the environment are in danger of its destruction in the foreseeable future. Our narrator, Naomi Klein, has gone around the world in search of communities where fossil fuel power plants are proposed to be built. She goes around the world and interviews people who are pushing back against these overreaching big companies. These are regular working class people who share the same grievances as one another. They are trying to protect the land that they love from harsh development that will render it a toxic wasteland. A reoccurring theme in the documentary is the greed exuded by these fossil fuel companies who never stop searching for more resources. In this film, we discover that ordinary citizens are the biggest opponent to the fossil fuel industry that it has ever faced. Klein travels to Andhra Pradesh, India, where we see a group of very dedicated citizens stopping any vehicle trying to get into the coal power plants. These people say they have been there for 215 days, preventing the operation of the power plant. The Indian government is undergoing a massive campaign to industrialize rural areas of the country. One citizen calls it the mindless pursuit of double-digit growth, which requires infrastructure, materials, land, forest, water, the coast, and coal on a grand scale. While building the new power plants would make a lot of profits for the energy industry, communities where these plants are located would not see any advantages and bear all of the costs. It is the politicians who are encouraging power companies to build in rural areas where there are predominantly poor and rural communities. These communities depend heavily on clean water for their means of support, fishing, and drinking. If the government allows these wetlands to be destroyed by industrialization, it would force villagers to move into overcrowded cities just to find menial work. The citizens of Andhra Pradesh banded together to stop this power plant at whatever cost. They stood up to the government, whom did not have their best interests in mind. They chased police away with sticks to show that they would not back down no matter what. 2 people died in protest, but they were successful in stopping the power plant from being built. It is easy to stand aside and let forces bigger than yourself push you around, but if you look around, you will see that there are thousands of people with your same concerns. Change does not happen with one person, but with many people with the same goals in mind. Next, in Beijing, China, there was a massive amount of smog in the air. Over half of the days in Beijing, the sun could not be seen through the haze. A small child, when asked, said she could not remember the last time she saw the sun. Chinese citizens are fed up with the government doing nothing about the air quality issue. They banded together at the local level to create a massive grassroots clean air campaign. Now the environmental movement in China is growing faster than the pace of their industrial smog growth. When the combined efforts of local people working together come together, Beijing did shut down its last coal power plant in 2016. China cares about its environment more than people realize. Just because most of the world's industrial manufacturing plants are located there does not mean that they are welcome. It is the government and the economy which prompted China's radical transformation into an industrial environment. Where else can you find cheap land and cheap labor on such a large scale? Perhaps in India, but they're not allowing that to happen anymore either. People are fed up and finally taking back their country, air, water, and earth. Germany is a fantastic example of a country that decided, as a whole, to transition to renewables. It is the people's cry for action that pushed the higher-ups to act upon the will of the land. Had they not acted, Germany would likely continue to be on the same path as many other industrialized countries. The people first fought against nuclear energy and then they fought for renewables. Now 30% of the energy produced in Germany comes from renewable energy. They have shown the Western world that we can live industrialized lives without giving in to the fossil fuel companies. Germany has created over 400,000 energy jobs from this transition. This dispels myths that transitioning to sustainable energy is bad for the economy. It is a good thing for the economy and society. It was up to society to influence environmental policy when, in turn, for them, it was up to society to influence environmental policy, which in turn affected the economy for the better. Oftentimes, the people have better ideas for what would benefit them than the bureaucrats do. The bureaucrats want to propel the economy by whatever means necessary and often do not think about people's needs. Economic growth can go on forever, but it is unsustainable. People around the world are declaring a need for environmental justice. It is the people who live on the land who are affected most by climate change and the industrial pollution. However, everyone who breathes air and drinks water is affected by environmental quality. It is up to regular people creating local movements to stop their governments from handing out financial incentives to fossil fuel companies. The corruption found in the political economies is staggering. Big companies and politicians alike are not going to change the status quo because they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Citizens who live on Earth are the ones who pay for this extraction and use of natural resources. It is a tragedy of the commons when something cannot be bought, air, earth, and water quality is destroyed by the few so it cannot be used by the many. It is more often than not poor communities with lagging economies where the fossil fuel industry decides to put their plants. The politicians of the poor areas may think that they're doing the community a favor by giving their economy a boost, but money cannot buy clean air and water. This documentary gives several good examples of poor people being marginalized and exploited for the profits of coal companies, and then they stand up for themselves. Are we so far gone with the idea that we control nature that the idea of not controlling nature sounds crazy? We must come together to fight the biggest bully of our time, the fossil fuel industry. If we are to keep overall global warming temperatures from scorching the earth, then we must act together and fight for what we care about. Okay? That is History 379 with Jessica Church. Thank you.